Okay guys, today let's start with one very interesting topic. Let's try to see how the things look from the viewpoint of the student. Let's clone our Git repository, our project. Let's work on it. Let's try to put different layout, create different controllers, eventually create a simple, very primitive content management system. But we'll see if I can do all this in this lection. So let's start. Usually in the morning how I start is this way. I will start this magical program Zoom which I need for the lections, just to make sure I can zoom and show different things. And recorder Camtasia is already started because I'm recording. Let's start our 3 ingredients for all our beautiful meals, if you want to call it this way. So first is github.com. I'm using OpenID with my Cloud ID, which is Codenvy. The reason I'm choosing Codenvy but not Cloud9 is the sensitive files. Codenvy allows me to have the private key in my hands, upload it to Codenvy, but use it at the same time with WinSCP, for example, just to use SFTP protocol to access my phpcloud and create my sensitive files. It's possible to use Git to push the sensitive files, but we have to do a lot of tricks, and it's much simpler just to use SFTP. Okay, the next one is our Cloud IDE, Codenvy. I would imagine that in the future this would be the workflow of each one of the developers, and phpcloud maybe is gonna be slightly different because it's a little bit slow. It's not very productive workflow, but it's gonna improve definitely. So let's sign in first as a student. I will pretend that now I'm a student, and I'm using this email, Stoyan Chereshar of Gmail, as a student. Let me enter my credentials. Sign in. Yesterday I did the same lection. I have created a project and everything necessary, but there was an error. I couldn't explain this error. Everything was working fine, but at one moment when I tried to push to GitHub, I get an error message. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna recreate everything from scratch. So let me clean up first my Cloud IDE, where the project is living right now. phpcloud as well, because I have their running application. I hope that this cloud-based passes and IDEs, software as a services, will get better and better, because yesterday I had a very difficult time just running my application on phpcloud. Hopefully today it's gonna be smoother, but let's see. I have to wait. Yesterday I had to wait a long time. Yeah, today it's much faster. Okay, so as I said, I'm gonna clean up everything. Even on AppFoc I have a running application which I'm gonna delete. So let me do that first. So in fact we have 4 different websites, 4 ingredients: application foc, GitHub, Codenvy, and phpcloud. I started to talk about the fact that I have private keys which I easily can import in Codenvy, which I cannot do in Cloud 9, which is a big disadvantage in this case. And also Cloud 9 doesn't allow me to download my private key and use it with another program. In this case I'm gonna use a native application called WinSCP to access phpcloud and enter my sensitive data. In this case this will be local PHP. So that's why I'm preferring right now Codenvy application fork. And I'm starting the cleanup by deleting my application running on app fork. Yeah, I want to delete all services as well eventually, even though I don't have any, but still just for any case. Okay, so Codenvy had a very difficult time removing the applications. Here it's much easier. I just will click remove and the application will be removed. Much better, much better. What I'm gonna do here is also open FMI, which is my fork, and I'm gonna remove it from here. Settings. So right from the beginning we are learning something. We learn what we need to do to completely vanish one application from all our software as a services and PaaS as platform as a services. So if I go to cool CSN right now and go to repositories in GitHub, I see that I don't have any repositories. I also removed the application deployed to phpcloud, and now the difficult one. Just let's try to delete the application here in Codenvy. Hopefully it's gonna remove it without any problems, but we'll see. It takes forever almost, so let's continue working. Okay, let's find now the repository we want to fork, and this is the repository of my professor, Wingman007. What a strange name for a professor. Very romantic. Fork, that's a joke. At least I try. Fork. And from Wingman007 the FMI will be cloned to cool CSN FMI. Let me show you that. Before it was Wingman007 FMI. Now it's, let me show you that. Oops. Now it's cool CSN FMI. Okay, we have it. So far so good. 125 commits. Let's see what Codenvy is doing. This application, this software as a service, has a very difficult time removing things. So let's prepare here another thing. We'll create a new application. Even though it's beta, I have to admit that phpcloud works very smooth. I appreciate that. FMI, deploy application. So we have a fork in GitHub of the original application, and we just have created one application with the same name, FMI. Of course the application can be named differently, can be something else, whatever we like. Now in the middle we have our IDE. Oh, thank you God. As you can see, we don't have any more projects here. Now we have our project with modules built here, album and application. Application is the skeleton application without any changes, but we have to use this application from GitHub because of this module, album. And we have to push this album to application container, to phpcloud. So let me show you the scheme, how it looks. Here we have our IDE. Our IDE will pull the data from GitHub because we forked the original application. And after that what we are gonna do is we are gonna push this application to our deployment, in this case our development server. This is phpcloud, where we can see the effect of the changes we're doing, because in appfoc we don't see what we're doing. There is no Apache running, there is no MySQL running on appfoc, on Codenvy, sorry about that. And here in phpcloud we have that. And in fact there is a third service. This is actually a platform as a service, which is appfoc. Eventually we can deploy the application to appfoc later. So let me go to appfoc and show you the fourth ingredient. That's called appfoc.com. I can even log in there. And see the running applications. Just for clarity, I'm gonna do it here. Sorry about that. Here I'm gonna use my other account. Which I have entered already in my IDE, which is Codenvy. Login just to show you the applications running. CSN, FMI, Stoyan, Jeresharov. Okay, this application is running here because this is the application of my professor. And I have entered here the credentials for this appfoc account. I'm not using a student account for appfoc. Let me actually see that appfoc. Let me make sure I see this. Yeah, here we go. So we see the exact same application running. Cool, CSN, EU, FMI, blah blah. Okay, so that's it. Let me draw again this diagram. This is my IDE. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull from GitHub, because I have one module and eventually more things. I do have more things actually, each one of the students' files. What I'm gonna do is, while I'm developing, I'm gonna push to my development server, which is phpcloud. When I finish, I will deploy to appfoc, the application, eventually. There I can set up my DNS servers to point to the IP where my application is running. So I will have a private domain if I like. So those are the ingredients. Again, first my IDE, which in this case my choice is Codenvy, and I show you and told you why. Actually I didn't show you, but I told you why, because I'm free to use my private RSA key. Second, this is GitHub. Third, this is my development server environment. This is phpcloud. And the fourth is my deployment server, which is appfoc in this case. And I haven't shown so far how we can deploy a Zend Framework 2 application to appfoc. It requires more steps. Probably we'll finish just to push the application to our phpcloud. Actually, there is a fifth ingredient, which is WinSCP.sftp client, which is a native application. It's not running in the browser. That's WinSCP. Okay, so this is the diagram. Let me even save it. Ingredients. Okay, escape. We have everything ready to go. Upfork, in fact, we don't need, so I just will log out, or I will stay there. I just will show you the new application running there. Okay, first thing to do is clone the repository, and we did it already. Now, let's create application. By the way, this is the reason, the fact that I'm planning later maybe to deploy the application to application fork. This is the reason, not simply to clone Git here, but use create application instead. Fuck, let me again make sure that I have a connection to my deployment server, which is application fork. Yes, I do. So let's start now. Project, new, create project. I'm gonna call it FMI, PHP, appfork, next. I have to accept the template. I'm gonna remove all this, I don't need it anyway. Western Europe, and I will say student Stoyan Cheresharov. Gonna use this URL. I hope it's unique enough to create the application on appfork, and here in my ID workspace. So finish. Waiting. It's creating application on the application fork, which is a remote server for our cloud ID. Okay, so it's running. Let's make sure. Oops. Pass. Why it's not active? I have no idea. Hello world. Pass should be active here, but it isn't. So let's go here and see applications. Here we go. We have another application running here. Let me do some changes and see. It's not important that right now that in projects pass we don't see anything, but we'll see why. Here we go. It just was expecting actually to do some changes. Here we go. From here we can adjust our deployment server or even see the application running. Hello world, and we are showing hello world because we have an index file PHP which actually contains a hello world. Okay, we don't need this template application, that's why I'm removing everything. After that I will initialize the repository and do all the necessary steps to pull our application from GitHub, our fork. Okay, I'm ready now. So let's initialize. We're doing here git init. Waiting here for the status to complete. Yeah, it says repository was successfully initialized. Now let's do everything necessary to be able to communicate with our fork on GitHub. In order to do that, first thing to do is just add as a remote repository GitHub, and secondary we have to make sure that we have created an RSA key pair and we have uploaded the public part to GitHub, and we keep our private part here in our ID, so the ID can communicate freely, can push and pull from our fork on GitHub. Okay, let's do the first things first. So let's add remote repository. Let's see the address. The connection will be SSH, security shell. So I'm clicking here on this button, SSH, copying the URL and creating a new remote repository for Git, and I'm gonna call this GitHub. I could call it GitHub fork, for example. also a reasonable name. Okay, now let's go to Window, Preferences, SSH keys, and just to show you everything from scratch, I'm going to remove this key and generate it again. I'm going to remove this key as well. Just want to show you everything really from scratch, because I have done this selection and that's why I have already these keys there. So let's go to account settings, SSH keys. Let's see what we have here. Codenvy. I'm going to remove this as well. Now, as we can see, we don't have any SSH keys here, and we don't have any SSH keys in our IDE. So the GitHub and the Codenvy still cannot communicate. In order to do that, we have to generate a key pair, RSA key pair, keep the private key in our IDE, and give the public key to our GitHub. So I'm gonna say generate for the host github.com, saying OK. Here we go. The key was created, and with view I can see the public key. The private key, as you can see, you cannot download, you cannot see, because it's private. It's kept there. Public key, select everything, copy, close, go to GitHub here, add SSH key, paste it, and I'm gonna name it Codenvy, because this is the key which I'm gonna use in GitHub to communicate with Codenvy. Have to enter again the password for GitHub in this case. Just a second. Confirm password. Yeah. Why I'm repeating this probably is because I want to show how to create a controller module eventually, change the layout and all this kind of stuff, because those are the criteria which I'm gonna use to determine the level of knowledge of my students. So okay, so now we have everything ready to communicate with GitHub. We have the RSA pcare created in Codenvy. We have entered the public key to GitHub. We have entered also in Codenvy the remote repository, so we just can say remote and pull. I'm doing directly pull here because I don't have anything. My project is absolutely empty, so I don't expect any conflicts. Pull, and because I have only one remote repository, of course, I'm gonna pull from GitHub. That's my only choice. And everything what I have here will be pulled and ready in my IDE, where I can edit, remove files, add more files, do whatever I like. Exception caught during execution of merge combo. Yeah, it gave me the same problem last time. It gave me exact same problem. So I don't understand why, but let me do first fetch then. Let me make a screenshot of this error so I can show it to our friends in Codenvy. Save this. I could have saved it differently, but I did it this way, and I'm gonna save it on my desktop, and I will say GitHub Codenvy error while pull. Save. Okay. I'm gonna try again. Remote fetch. I think I know what the problem is, actually. I didn't do any add and commit to this new init, but in fact I don't have to. I don't think I have to. Okay, now the next step is to do merge. Now of course I have only one branch to merge, that's GitHub master. I'm gonna say merge now and see if there are conflicts. There is a serious problem. I should have much more files and folders here. Okay, I'm gonna redo this very quickly and do one commit before I do the pull. Maybe this is the problem. So I'm gonna remove this deployed application from appfoc, delete including the services. It's very strange, but whatever it is, we're gonna solve it. Delete. Still, it's very difficult to work with these IDEs. We are finding ways to do it. Okay. So, again, project, new, create project, FMI. In any case, this name is gonna be changed, which is another thing I don't like. FMI. I could try actually just to choose a unique name. Student. Hopefully the appfoc has been able to remove the application for this short amount of time. Let me try. And there is no such application, and I will not have any conflicts. Loading. It's extremely slow. Yeah. This is what I notice. Appfoc is extremely slow. Let me try again. We know that it's using Amazon Web Services. Loading the information. Let's try again. Yeah, perfect. So there are only two applications. So application name FMI, I will leave it this way. And here I will put student Stoyan Cheresharov. Hopefully my name it's unique enough. Finish. Creating application FMI on appfoc. Oh, I probably have already such application. Let's make sure it works. Yes, it does. Let's refresh. Pass appfoc. Again, here we make sure it works. That's it. So the first one, which I created before, was strange from the very beginning. Okay, so I'm gonna delete this because I don't need it. Delete it again. I don't need it. Delete. 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 And delete finally the index. And I explain it why I'm doing it this way, because eventually I will deploy to appfoc. Now initialize repository. Maybe I should say bare repository. I haven't tried that. In any case, I'm gonna try now to say add and commit. Commit. After that, I will call status to make sure that my first commit as a student. On branch, nothing to commit. Let me see status. On branch master, nothing to commit. Yeah, that's normal. Now I'm gonna repeat only the step for adding the remote repository because the SSH keys, they stay, they don't get removed when you remove the application. Git remotes add, and I'm gonna copy again this. I'm gonna call it GitHub and say OK. Close. This time I'm gonna do fetch and merge after that, just for any case. Fetch. Okay, fetching. Let's wait when the status is finished. Okay, successfully fetched from remote repository GitHub cool CSM FMI. Let's do merge now. GitHub master merge. And hopefully I'll see all the files and all the folders and everything. The entire project will be here. It's taking a little bit longer. It's taking longer, which probably is a good sign. We'll see. Drinking my morning tea while I'm doing that. Oh, sorry about that, but it's taking long. And also the heat from the tea cools me down. It's strange, cools me down. Gives me a warm feeling in the cold winter days. Loading data. I hope that this time is gonna work. And everything what I have in GitHub here, I will have loaded in my IDE, which will allow me to edit it, add more files and work. Okay. So meanwhile, here we go, FMI. I just have to be careful that I don't create other applications with the same name. I should call it, this is as a professor, I should call it student, but I did it already, so application. By the way, let's start WinSCP, which is gonna allow us to connect directly to, I'm going to my portable apps, and here we go, WinSCP, which is gonna allow us to connect directly to phpcloud and see all the folders here. Loading data. Now removing the application wasn't a problem. Now creating a new one, it's a big problem for Cloud IDE. For Codenvy, sorry, not Cloud IDE. If I have to be honest, Cloud 9 works a little bit smoother and everything happens easier. But as I said, I don't have SFTP access to my phpcloud, and in order to push the sensitive files with Git, I have to create two different branches eventually. One of them is public, another one it's production. In production I have to have my sensitive files. I have to push this branch to phpcloud, but when I decide to share this project with other people on GitHub, I have to use my public branch in which I don't have the sensitive files, and this really is gonna be a difficult thing to do. It's more cumbersome, and I don't think it's agile. Much faster is just directly connect to phpcloud and create whatever it's necessary. So perfect. Let me attract your attention to something. Okay, after merge we have to do add, because eventually there are errors and conflicts, not errors but conflicts, which we have to solve. So let me add everything to the local repository, and I'm gonna do, of course, commit, and I can do a push back to my GitHub repository to make sure that communication is properly established. I have been able to pull, I will be able to push. So let me do that. Git commit. Now I'm gonna say committing after merging with GitHub. I just will call it commit. Spell check is very good. Commit. On branch master, nothing to commit. Work directory clear. Let me see status. Okay, that's fine. Now if there is nothing to commit and I say push, probably it's gonna give me error, which is typical for this IDE, Codenvy push. Let's see. Now it says successfully pushed to Git. That's good. So we have been able to fetch, merge, and push back. Okay, now so far so good. We have our project loaded in Codenvy, but we cannot do anything because we don't see the result. Because we know this project is Zend Framework 2 project. Now we will connect to our development server, where we have Apache running, MySQL running, and all the development stack is there. And we're gonna connect to FMI. We will do again the same thing. First add the remote in Codenvy, remotes, add this remote. I'm gonna call Zend. Now the first thing is to add the remote repository, but the second is to make sure the remote repositories can communicate, and this is done through our RSA key pair. I have already my private key downloaded by going here, access keys, and generating new key pair. I have generated a PEM key. Okay, and this key, actually private key, I'm gonna upload to my to my IDE. Nothing prevents me from doing this, just to show you how I'm doing it. I have done it already, but let's repeat it just for this tutorial. So generate new key pair. It says that the current RSA key pair is not gonna be valid anymore. I will agree with that, and here you'll see that I'm downloading my private key. Here we go. Show in folder. I'm gonna cut this private key, cut, and save it in my USB drives, because I keep my keys there. So this is my private keys. My current private keys are not valid anymore, so I'm gonna remove them. Paste. Okay, I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna generate from PEM key another private key, which is PPK, and good for use with PUTTY and WinSCP on Windows. So all you have to do is just download from internet PUTTY gen executable file. So you do a Google search for this file, Actually, it is a part of the package, PUTTY package. Search for this. Here we go. Here it is, the URL where you can find this tool. If you're gonna work with phpcloud, you definitely will need the entire package here. So I have downloaded. I'm not gonna do it right now. And as you can see, I store it in this folder, PUTTY gen. So I'm starting this tool, and I say file load private key. I'm choosing all files and the newly downloaded from phpcloud private key. I'm gonna open it, and as you can see, it says successfully imported foreign key. Here you see the fingerprint. Let's compare our fingerprint with what we have as a fingerprint here. Zoom it. Let me show you now. Here we go. 42 E1, and I'm gonna check the rest. I'm just gonna check the last one. Yeah, everything else is the same. So we're dealing with the same key. I'm gonna enter a key phrase just to protect my PPK key, and I'm saving the private key. I'm gonna name it the same way as the PAM key is called. And I'm saving. And that's it. That's enough now to use this private key with my Windows applications like PUTTY and WinSCP, and the PEM key I need for Codenvy, because the PEM keys are used on Linux in Unix world. Also, Zen Studio, even though it's for Windows, there is a version for Windows, it's using again PEM key instead of PPK. Okay, so now I'm gonna upload this key to allow phpcloud to allow my ID to communicate with phpcloud. phpcloud.com, browse. Let's go to my cursor. Yeah, private keys. And I remember that it was a very strange name, but of course I'm gonna use PM open, PM upload. Okay, the two requirements are fulfilled. I have entered properly my key, my private key to ID, to my ID Codenvy, and also I have entered in Git as a remote Zen. So both requirements are fulfilled. Now all I have to do is now fetch from remote, which is in this case my development server, solve the conflicts, and I'm good to go. Oh no, it's taking forever. I hope the server is not down. See, this is the downside of this cloud development. You always depend on somebody else's machine to get the things done, but that's good, and also it's a bad thing. As you can see, I'm always afraid that eventually one of those services will stop working and I just will hang in the air, not able to continue. Okay, so let me check the status. Make sure that everything is clean. On branch master, nothing to commit, working directory clean. Okay, now let's do remote fetch because we will have conflicts. I expect conflicts in config because I have created global PHP, not created but changed global PHP, and also application is changed, and we'll see that just in a second. So I'm fetching now. This time I'm fetching from my development server where I have Apache, PHP and everything set up. So I will see the face of my application. successfully fetched from remote repository. Now I'm gonna do git merge remote ZF2 merge. And as I said, I expect at least 2 conflicts, which we are going to resolve very quickly. Add, commit, push, and we're going to solve this problem. Okay, so here we go, exactly as I expected. Config application config, and I'll show you why and how we're going to resolve this problem. See, the good thing here in the IDE is that we see the conflicts with this asterisk, black asterisk. Okay, application config. So let me show you. In GitHub, we have one extra module which is called album, and this module, in order to be loaded and the application to know about it, application should be aware about it, we have entered one extra line here, which doesn't exist in the skeleton application in phpcloud. So that's why we have a conflict. And as you can see, it shows my current, and it shows what is in refs remote ZF2. In ZF2 there is nothing. That's why we have one, even not an empty line, but we have nothing. What we want is our album to stay there, because this is our new module. So I'm going to remove whatever was being added by Git, and I will have the file the way I want it. Now let's go to global. See, as you can see, our global is much more sophisticated. Here is what comes from GitHub, in other words, our application, which we edited and we want it this way, and this is what comes from ZF phpcloud. We don't want to return an empty array, we want our array. So I'm going to remove what comes from ZF, and I'm going to remove what was added by Git, and I'm going to save it. Brilliant. Now we have fixed the 2 conflicts we had. Next thing is just add all this, what we have done, to the repository, commit, and push to both to GitHub and push to ZF, our development server, just to make sure that everything is right now. In fact, we don't even have to push to GitHub, because we have the files exactly the way we have it in the GitHub. But I just want to make sure that the communication is okay. Okay. Now we're gonna say commit conflicts resolved with ZF2 resolved. Commit. Okay, nice. Now what we are gonna do, just before we continue, I'm gonna show you the application, how it looks right now. We haven't pushed anything to our development server, so all we have is our skeleton application, only our skeleton application, intact, untouched. We have created in GitHub one module which is called album. This is the tutorial application, and I'm just gonna show you that we don't have it right now on our brand new index, in our brand new application in phpcloud. No wonder we have error page not found. Yeah. After committing, after pushing actually to phpcloud, you will see that we will have this application and we will have this module. Okay, so I was about to push now. Remote. So let me try first to push first to ZF, or first to GitHub, because yesterday I had problems pushing to GitHub. So let me push to GitHub now and see what happens. Hopefully there are no errors. Yeah, there are no errors. And now I'm gonna push to our development server to see the changes. Each time when we do changes, add files or something else, we have to push to our server in order to manifest these changes, which is very cumbersome right now. It's not very convenient, but this is the way we have to work. Then we always use Git, so I would say that the Git is the heart of this cloud development right now. Yeah, we didn't break anything in the application, which is very good, but we will have album, even though maybe it's not gonna work properly because we don't have the credentials there. And this is the key. Yes, we have it. Let me show you something else. We have to have, of course, a database. One table in the database, album. This album has been created by me for another lecture, so I'm going to remove this and show you how to create it. Album, drop this table. Yes, I want to drop this table. So this is how you access your container database. Each container in phpcloud has its own database. Maybe it's not enough, who knows, but in order to access this database, you go to Management, Database Management, and after that you click on Manage your database, and it opens this software, which is called phpMyAdmin. It's a web-based, very nice tool. I would call it software as a service. It exists since many years, and everybody in PHP world knows about it. Probably everybody knows it. Okay, so our database scheme, table, SQL, are taken from the tutorial application, so I'm gonna go there and just take the code and show you how it looks. So this is framework. I'm doing everything from scratch just to make sure that it's clear for everybody and I'm not missing anything. So learn, then framework 2, and if you get started, skeleton unit testing modules, we have to do testing, of course. Routing and controllers, we'll see how we're gonna do this in the cloud environment. Here it is. This is the SQL statement we have to execute here in PHP MyAdmin in order to get the table created and populated. So I just copy and paste and I say go, and as you can see, the album has been created and populated with data. Okay, so far so good. Let me show you the application again. As you can see, there is an error, and no wonder, because what we have in config is only a global PHP. If you look at here it is, and we don't have the credentials. Our application doesn't know the username and password and how to connect to the database. It doesn't even know the DSN data source name, which means the name of the database and the host. So this is one example. These are not my real credentials. I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna create. This is where the WinSCP, the native application, comes to play a role. Okay, so now what we are gonna do is run our WinSCP portable and connect to phpcloud and create there directly the local PHP. We don't need local PHP in our IDE. We need only on the development server. Let me show you something else as well. Show hidden files. That's why we have in autoload by default a file called .gitignore. This file determines which files will be ignored when we do add and commit in Git. So that's why we're doomed here. Even if we create such file local PHP, we won't be able to push it to our development server on phpcloud. We have to do tricks like commenting. In previous lessons I was doing this, commenting these lines, and pushing, but when you commit, the local PHP stays in the history. So when I do push to the GitHub, even though we don't have such file after removing, because we don't want to disclose this file to the rest of the world, we still have it in the history of GitHub, and it causes a lot of problems. Much easier will be just to create this file directly within WinSCP or another SFTP client. Keep the file gitignore intact as it is right now, and not mess around anymore with this file. Have it only on our development and eventually on our deployment server later when we have to deploy the application. So this is the reason I prefer Codenvy. This little tiny detail actually. With Cloud9 I will not be able to use SFTP client of any sort because I don't have the private key. The private key stays somewhere in Cloud9 and I cannot download it. So how I would push my credentials to the PHP cloud? It's possible, as I said, but we have to do it's very difficult and complicated way using GitHub. It's really not worth it. Okay, so let's continue now. I showed how I created a table in the database and populated. I just took the example code from the example tutorial application in Zend documentation. Okay, so let me continue further now. As I said, the next thing is just use WinSCP portable or whatever WinSCP do you have to connect to your PHP cloud. Let me show you something. I already have created such link. Let me show you in edit. So here in SFTP you just have to hit new, and this opens. You choose SFTP, you enter the host name for your container, which is the name of your container, myphpcloud.com, port 22. You enter the username for your container, and now the PPK key is gonna play his role. You choose it from wherever you save the PEM file and convert it to PPK, open it, and you say login. You have to enter your passphrase here. Remember, when we have created the PPK key, we entered a passphrase. That's nothing special, just says that some folder on the remote server which I previously used is not existing anymore. It should be able to open it. Yeah, here we go. So it's a little bit slow, I don't know why. Maybe my USB stick, it's okay. In applications I cannot go one level up, of course. I don't have permissions. Applications, FMI, let me show you. Let me go to CodeCSN. Here you will see that I'm running this application, FMI. I haven't removed the default application, just for fun I keep it there. And here we go. In config, autoload, I have to create a local PHP. Let me show you the example of local PHP distribution, which can be used as a base. Here I have to put my DSN, my username and password. So I'm gonna pause just for a second, create the file, show you how it looks. Okay, so I'm gonna say new file, and I'm gonna call it local PHP. Okay, as you can see, it's open. So as I said, I'm gonna pause for a second and resume to show you the content. Okay, let me show you the content of the file. Actually, as a base, I was using the same file which I show you, called php local php.dist, and I just created the array. I just commented the old content. This was old, just to show you what we had before, and here we go. This is what I entered. So as a data source name for our application, I have entered db name CoolCSN. That's the name of my database. If you go back to phpMyAdmin, you will see that the container and the database name are the same. host. Now pay attention to that. There is only one slight difference. cocsn-db.myphpcloud.com, this is the host of your database. Your username is the username for your container, and the password is the password for your container. Now I'm gonna pause just for a second, of course, to put my real password, save it, and show you how the file looks in the file system on the remote server, which is phpcloud. Okay, so the file has been created. All you had to do is just I'm gonna show this on local PHP, for example. All you have to do is just hit save here when you have entered your credentials, and after that hit exit. You will be asked again for the passphrase for your PPK. For your private key, you enter it, and that's it. Voila, we have the file there ready to work. So now we have created a database in the PHP Cloud using the phpMyAdmin. We have pushed the application using the Codenvy, and we have created the local PHP file which has the credentials, so our application should work in this case, and it does, as you can see. Okay, perfect. So good, so far so good. Add new album, for example. Let's make sure that everything works. I will call it test 1, artist Stoyan 1. Add. Here we go. Edit. I'm gonna remove 1. I'm gonna change it to 2, for example, or just add 1 to edit. Here we go. We see that it's there, and I'm gonna remove it. So we have the CRUD working. Perfect. So far so good. I probably will make a pause and after that continue, but before we do that, let me show you something else. Now I don't need git ignore anymore. I don't need global and application PHP. Let me show you something, attract your attention to something. I have added here git ignore file in public. Why? Because htaccess, it's a little bit strange on PHP Cloud. It has this extra line. Pay attention to this. Now our application is in a subfolder. As a subdomain we have our name of the container, but each application is in a subfolder, FMI. So for mode rewrite in Apache, actually, because this is required for Zend framework 1 and 2 to work, we had to enter this extra line. But for each container this line will be different unless we all call our applications FMI. So eventually we will have conflict in htaccess, and that's why I have added a git ignore here. So one way to do that, to avoid the conflicts, is just to remove this file, and again push to the repositories. Make sure that we don't have it in GitHub eventually. Let me try to do that. Let me check the status of the repository to see if I have something to commit. Probably not, but let's check. Okay, on branch master, nothing to commit, working directory cleaned. Okay, even if I remove htaccess right now, it's gonna be ignored, so nothing is gonna happen. Let me make sure that delete. As you can see, we need this file and the local PHP file only and only on the PHP Cloud and eventually on our deployment server. We don't need this in our GitHubs, or we don't need it in our IDE. So let me check this now. Git add probably is gonna be ignored, and commit will not have any effect. But let me check. git commit, I will say ht access removed commit. No changes, as you can see, because of the ignore. And if I do push, let me push to Zend first. Error. That's typical for Codenvy, and push to GitHub. When you don't have anything to push, actually it shows me error. GitHub. Let me see what about GitHub. Yeah, the same thing, but let's make sure we didn't break anything on our application. No, we didn't. Album index. Okay, so far so good. So far so good. Okay, I will make a short break, and after that I will continue by creating probably new controllers in application, changing the layout eventually. And the third thing to do is maybe create a very primitive CRUD, which is gonna play the role of the content management system. Thank you for your attention and time, and see you next time. Bye.